Welcome to Meany Hall for the Performing Arts on the campus of the University of Washington and the 2002 University of Washington Freshman Convocation. The Convocation is a celebration in honor of freshmen and their families, welcoming them to the campus community. This marks the 19th such ceremony since the tradition was revived in 1984. It is not generally known that the university held convocations from the 1920s through the 1950s. Records in the university archives do not indicate when or why the earlier convocations were discontinued, but until its revival in 1984, it was at least 20 years since one had been held. Speakers for today's event include University Marshal and Associate Professor of Philosophy Ronald M. Moore, President Richard L. McCormick, Provost Lee L. Huntsman, the President of the Associated Students of the University, Alexandra Z. Narvaez, and Mary Gates Leadership Grant recipient and scholar, Allison A. Van. The keynote speaker is Dr. Robert D. Crutchfield, Professor and Chair of Sociology. The title of his convocation address is Write Poetry, Dance, Save the World. Again, welcome to the 2002 University of Washington Freshman Convocation.
The 2002 University of Washington Freshman Convocation will be opened with the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner by Mr. Lincoln Johnson, accompanied by the University Wind Ensemble, conducted by Professor Timothy Saltzman of the School of Music. The audience will please rise and is invited to join with Mr. Johnson in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night but still there. Oh, say can that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please be seated. Welcome to Meany Hall for the Performing Arts and the University of Washington Freshman Convocation. I'm Ronald Moore, the University Marshal. In my regular job, I teach in our philosophy department, but as University Marshal, I lead our academic processions, and as you will have noticed, I carry the mace. The mace is an ancient symbol of authority that reminds us that universities are custodians both of enduring traditions of learning and of the power they bestow on those who come to learn. It is also a reminder that the learning process has not always been comfortable and easy. In the early universities in Europe, students entered into such animated discussions with their instructors that their raucous debates often spilled out of the classroom into nearby coffee shops and streets and taverns, and this is why there had to be a mace. The marshal was called upon to clobber parties who got out of hand. The University of Washington mace is itself quite a handsome object. It's embellished with finely wrought metal sculptures of the university seal and of Denny Hall, and topped by a graceful rendition of Drumheller Fountain. I truly wouldn't want to damage it by bashing an unruly student. Now, we haven't had that kind of experience here. I understand it did happen a while ago at Yale. A few years ago, the commencement marshal actually did have to use the mace to stop a split political speech a student had chosen to make. He grabbed the microphone and began to speak, and the marshal stepped in. Something similar happened to me a few years ago when I was doing the commencement exercise, and I had begun some remarks, and a student came up and pushed me aside and grabbed the mic, and I thought I was in trouble. But what he said was, "Wendy, will you marry me?" And a voice came out from the audience, "Yes," and everybody applauded. Now, the mace and the festive medieval gowns we wear on such occasions as these are visible links to a grand history. This university is not one more job training institute. It's not one more research and development factory. It's not a social club. There's something special about the way this place is wedded to the evolution of excellence in which we want to involve you. Coming here, you are entering into the experience and traditions not only of this university, but at the same time, a continuous stream that connects us today with the greatest accomplishments of the past, the greatest writing, the greatest music, the greatest art, and science, and sports, and philosophy, and so much more, in all times and in all cultures. It is the nature of the university to gather and preserve the best ideas mankind has hit upon, not to preserve them or present them as sterile exhibits in some stuffy museum of lofty thoughts, but rather to make these ideas a solid foundation from which new ideas can spring. It is the university's way of being liberal to be conservative. We call together all we have gained from experience, composition, analysis, experiment, invention, and proof to free our futures by ensuring that they develop out of knowledge of our pasts. The mace and these symbols, these medieval gowns we wear on occasions such as these, are reminders of the university's special way of uniting where we are now with what has brought us here. Edmund Wilson was once asked to distinguish the American from the British mentality. He said that the British are captives of the past, while Americans are captives of the present. A wry comment, overly simplistic, but pretty perceptive. We Americans are fascinated, maybe unduly fascinated, with what is current. Now, it is often very useful and smart to keep current. But this fascination can blind us to ways in which the present is born of the past and pregnant with a future. We need to avoid being possessed by the present as much as the British need to avoid being possessed by the past. We, like they, need to possess rather than being possessed by the present, the past, and the future. This is precisely what we hope and expect will happen to you in the course of your education here. For the University of Washington is committed to putting you into a strong position to grasp and savor the present and the past as you move to take charge of your future. Above all, the university is a place where free and orderly thinking is cultivated, one where every idea is given its due and tested in the crucible of critical reflection. For this reason, it is, above all, the natural and best place to begin the thoughtful and arduous process of counteracting hatred and prejudice. It is the trailhead of a path to a better, safer, more tolerant, and more understanding world. This is, I think, a particularly important mission in this time of international unrest, distrust, misunderstanding. Finally, let me turn to the special nature of today's event. A convocation is, as those of you who recall your high school Latin may remember, a calling together. Today, we call together our incoming freshmen and their families so that we may celebrate with you the beginning of university education and welcome you all to membership in our campus community. This is the 19th such ceremony since the tradition was revived in 1984 after a 20-year hiatus. By calling all of us, students, faculty, family, and friends, together in this place, we are underscoring a point of cooperation and mutual commitment. You are now members of the University of Washington family. Like families everywhere, we will now be sharing our concerns, our affections, our aspirations, and our devotion to the project of creating a better future. We sincerely hope that these newly forged family connections will be lifelong bonds of friendship and allegiance. And we hope that you will always feel as proud and happy about us as we already feel about this outstanding incoming class. Now I want to introduce the man who will preside over our ceremony today, the President, Dr. Richard L. McCormick.
Thank you, Marshall Moore. First, let me express a warm welcome to the students, parents, grandparents, friends, and families of the entering class of 2002. We are really glad you are here at the University of Washington. Today, the first-year students will begin a personal journey that will change your lives and prepare you for all that follows. There are nearly 5,000 of you. Each of you was selected from among many more qualified applicants than could possibly be accepted at the University of Washington. Half of you are women, half men. Over 80% of you are from the state of Washington, the rest from around the nation and around the world. During the years ahead, you will work and grow together. You will learn from each other as well as from the faculty. And when you graduate from the University of Washington, you'll have an outstanding education and you'll have friends for a lifetime. The beginning of the fall term is traditionally an exciting time, and this fall is no exception. But this year, like last year, the mood is also somber. We are worried about the prospect of war and still gravely concerned about the meaning and the aftermath of the terrorist attacks. We are trying to make sense of these events and decide what our individual and collective responses should be. Our country's relationships around the world have never been more important, and your education here will prepare you to take the part you choose in our global society. Along with the pain of last year, these events have thrust special obligations upon institutions like the University of Washington. First, we must be a place where every person and every idea is treated with respect. Everyone has the same right as everyone else to study, work, and live peaceably on our campus. Next, the University of Washington is committed to preparing all of our students for citizenship in a global society. For that is where you will surely be, no matter where you actually live or work. Third, we are and must remain a resource for the larger communities of which we are a part, a place where people can come to learn from us and from each other. Finally, we must do all we can to strengthen the alignment of our university's work with 21st century global human challenges in healthcare, environmental protection, economic opportunity, preservation of the human spirit, advancing human health, and closing the divides that separate rich from poor, literate from illiterate. If these calls and obligations sound familiar, they are. They are our university's traditional missions and obligations, teaching and research in a climate that is free and open, preparing students for a changing world, sharing knowledge with a larger community, and applying our learning to address human problems. But now our university's work is more sorely needed than ever, and you have come to help do it at exactly the right time. So let me say a few words about the institution you are joining today. The University of Washington began 141 years ago, before Washington was a state and before there were many students even capable of benefiting from a college education. In establishing the UW so long ago, our founders were carrying forward a tradition going back to the 17th century in America and the 12th century in Europe. A university was a place of learning, where the old teach the young, and the young repay the debt by transcending the inherited wisdom and teaching another group of young ones. That is an ideal, of course, but it is an ideal that is essential to human progress and more real within a university like ours than anywhere else. In time, our university assumed new responsibilities besides learning, including research, that is, discovering new knowledge, and service, that is, applying the knowledge in the larger world. I hope that besides your learning, you will also get involved in the university's missions of discovery and service. The faculty will give you ample. The 4 years that lie ahead for you are about much more than getting trained for a job. In today's fast-paced world, you'll probably need to get trained again and again. The next 4 years are also about preparing you for the rest of your lives, for citizenship and community membership, for raising families and advancing civilization. You won't learn to be good at those things if you concentrate your education exclusively on career preparation. Today, you enter the ranks of men and women across the decades and across 2 centuries who have become educated here at the University of Washington. You are not yet the most learned members of our community, but you have the freshest eyes and the keenest enthusiasm. Now more than ever, we need you to use your fresh eyes to spot ways in which we at the University of Washington can live out our ideals and obligations more fully, and to tell us what you see. Institutions like ours can be more important than ever, providing they live up to their ideals. So you have come just at the right time. In this sense, to say that we are pleased to welcome you is completely true, but it is a vast understatement. Your arrival today marks the annual renewal of our university's commitment to the ideals I cited before, and to a proud tradition of learning, discovery, and service that goes back in time and looks forward in time. Without that renewal born of you, we would die as an institution and a civilization. So it is with more than the usual amount of emotion and pride that I say to each of you, welcome to the University of Washington. And now I have the pleasure of introducing the members of the platform party before you, beginning with the Regents of the University of Washington, our governing board. Let me introduce each of the Regents, all of the Regents, and then we'll join in thanking them for their leadership of our university. The President of the Board of Regents, Regent Jerry Grinstein. Regent Ark Chin. Regent Sally Jewell. Regent David Moore Replug. Regent Constance Proctor, Regent Shelley Yap, Regent Cindy Zender, ladies and gentlemen, the Regents of the University of Washington. Our university's chief academic and chief budget officer is Provost Lee L. Huntsman. Seated with Lee are the other vice presidents of the university and other members of our administration. Please let me introduce them as a group. Vice President Rusty Barcelo, Vice President for University Affairs, Minority Affairs. Executive Vice President Weldon Eyrig. Vice President Connie Kravis, Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations. Vice President Ernest Morris, Vice President for Student Affairs. Deborah Friedman, Associate Provost for Academic Planning. Gus Kravis, Vice Provost and Special Assistant to the President for Student Relations. Carol Nichols, Executive Assistant to the President. Harlan Patterson, Vice Provost for Planning and Budgeting, ladies and gentlemen, the administration of the University of Washington. Next is a faculty member whom you will meet more fully in a moment. He is our Convocation keynote speaker, Professor Robert D. Crutchfield, Professor and Chair of the Department of Sociology. Next, the leaders of student government at the University of Washington, from one of whom you will hear in just a moment, the President of the Associated Students of the University of Washington, Alexandra Narvaez, and the President of the Graduate and Professional Student Senate, David M. Nixon. Next are several representatives of the most important of those members of our faculty who will teach you in the years ahead. Distinguished teaching awardees, Professor David S. Convocation and Professor Barry B. Witham of the School of Drama. Representing our outstanding teaching assistants, from whom you will also learn in the years ahead, Excellence in Teaching awardee Cha Hui Huang of the Department of Linguistics. Representing the most outstanding students of the University of Washington is our junior medalist, Mr. Paul M. Vronsky. And representing the tens of thousands alumni of the university, of which you will be one before long, the president of the University of Washington Alumni Association, Gary Ortley. The marshals of our freshman convocation are as follows. Again, I will introduce them all together. Marshal Ron Moore, Marshal Norm Arkins, Marshal Emil Petrie, Marshal Sandra Madrid, Marshal Catherine Hamilton, Marshal Peary Hart, Marshal Michael R. Peterson, Marshal Millie Russell, Marshal Renee Singleton, Marshal Susan Terry, the marshals of this convocation. Finally, the sign language interpreters who will help you understand this ceremony, Janelle Dover and Laurie Reese Reinhardt. And just below your sight line for many of you, Timothy O. Salzman, the conductor of our University Wind Ensemble. Thanks to all of you for joining with me in this ceremony. Now I have the honor of introducing the President of the Associated Students of the University of Washington. She is the elected student leader, and it comes in a long tradition of student governance which has been so terribly important in the history of our institution. She is Alexandra Narvaez, President of the Associated Students of the University of Washington. Her hometown is Seattle, Washington. She is majoring in political science and business administration, and her goal is to obtain a law degree and a master's degree in public policy. Please welcome the ASUW President, Alex Narvaez.
Thank you, President McCormick. Welcome, class of 2006, or perhaps 2007. The year that you decide to graduate is really up to you. That is the unique thing about going to college. You are able to learn at your own pace. Perhaps many of you have already taken advantage of this by signing up for classes that don't start until noon so that you may be able to sleep in a bit. Besides choosing what time you have to start class, you are also able to choose what types of classes you wish to take. For me, this was the best change from high school to college. There is such a variety of classes being offered, it is often difficult to choose which ones to take. Also, don't be afraid to ask a fellow student which professor they would recommend or which classes they enjoyed the most. Now, I have a few questions to ask you, but don't worry, this isn't a pop quiz or anything you will have had to study for. That won't start until tomorrow. So, my first question for you is, how many of you are from out of state or from another country? Okay. Take a moment. Yeah, you can give them pause. By show of hands, you can see the regional diversity that we have at this university. I encourage you to learn about cultures and global issues, not only through books or from working with faculty, but by participating in everyday conversations with your fellow classmates. I also encourage you to participate in cutting-edge research that is improving the health and lives of people across the globe. This is research that the University of Washington is partaking in as we speak. Also, take the opportunity to learn in a different environment through programs such as the National and Foreign Exchange programs. The opportunities that have been offered to you as a result of choosing to begin your college career. Okay, second question. Who in here is signed up for a class that involves a service learning component to the class? Anybody? Okay. So just imagine this. Imagine being able to tutor a middle school student or assist a community organization in keeping Seattle environmentally friendly and being able to receive class credit for this. Programs such as the Carlson Leadership Center has numerous opportunities for you to apply what you learn in the classroom to the reality of everyday life. Through programs such as these, you can see how unjust structures and social complications often affect the daily lives of many in our community. Additionally, there are many, many student organizations on campus and off campus which would enable you to build lifelong friendships and also learn about social justice issues or enhance a hobby that you may already have. And my final question. Who here has brought a relative or family member with them to the ceremony? A parent, a brother, or a sister? You did not get to this point in your life on your own, nor will you leave college having made it through on your own. You have always had the help of teachers, friends, and family to guide you through these years. These people will continue to support you throughout your years in college. Remember to constantly thank them for all that they have done for you. Do not let their support and guidance go unappreciated. Never forget who you are or where you came from, and always remember your community. Class of 2006 or 2007, whatever it may be, I wish you the best of luck in the upcoming years. Thank you.
Before introducing our next speaker, who is a student who has benefited enormously from her studies at the University of Washington, I want to introduce to you the deans of our colleges and schools. The deans are the academic leaders of the University of Washington, and all of them are on this platform today. I will recognize them, and then we'll recognize them as a group. First, the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, David Hodge. The Dean of the School of Pharmacy, Sidney Nelson. Associate Dean of the School of Law, Patricia Kusler. Associate Dean of the College of Engineering, Chen-Ching Liu. Dean of the College of Forest Resources, Bruce Baer. Dean of the School of Business Administration, Yash Gupta. Dean of the School of Nursing, Nancy Woods. Associate Dean of the School of Medicine, Daniel Hunt. Dean of the School of Public Health and Community Medicine, Patricia Wall. Dean of the College of Ocean and Fishery Sciences, Arthur Knoll. Dean of Undergraduate Education and Vice Provost George Bridges. Director of University Libraries, Betsy Wilson. Dean of the Information School, Michael Eisenberg, the Deans of the University of Washington. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our second student speaker, someone who has taken exceptional advantage of all of the opportunities at the University of Washington and who is in many respects a model of what it means to be an undergraduate at a university like this. She is Allison Van, a senior studying biology, community and environmental planning, and environmental sciences. While at the University of Washington, she has worked as a national communications specialist for an environmental nonprofit organization, a public involvement research fellow for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and an intern working on endangered salmon conservation at a National Marine Fisheries Service. Allison received the Harry S. Truman and Morris K. Udall scholarships in 2002 for her efforts to encourage the conservation of natural resources. She received a Mary Gates Leadership Grant in 2001 and was selected as an S. Sterling Monroe Public Service Award in 2002. Allison plans to pursue a PhD in biology and a JD in environmental law so that she can have a career in helping disadvantaged communities harness their joint powers of law and science to protect and manage their lands. Please welcome Allison Van.
Welcome, family, friends, and especially freshmen. Your experiences here will enrich you. Opportunities will arise and obligations emerge, opening your eyes ever wider. Making the most of your university experience requires facing your fear of failure. Let me tell you what I've learned about taking chances and earning them. I loved math in high school. So it was a devastating blow when both my math SAT and placement tests informed me that my abilities were less than impressive. In fact, after 2 years of high school calculus, I was told that I would need to take Math 98, intermediate algebra. I foolishly substituted the test judgment for my own and focused my studies on environmental science and policy, studiously avoiding math. Finally, halfway through my sophomore year, I decided I had to deal with my fear. I pulled out my high school textbooks and studied in my spare time. I struggled through a second math placement test and did much better, good enough that a professor gave me a shot and let me into his calculus class. The opportunity he gave me to prove myself meant the world to me, and I worked incredibly hard to fulfill my part of the deal. I ended up getting a 4.0 in that class and going on to enjoy many more math courses, finally majoring in biology with a focus in mathematical ecology. It took me a year and a half, but I am proud that I took on my fear and accomplished something I thought I couldn't do. It set a new precedent for me. Today I leap at any amazing opportunity, whether I think I have a chance or not. And when I am blessed with success, I work incredibly hard to deserve it. Whatever good any of us does is the result of obligation meeting opportunity, of striving both for ourselves and for others, to do better, to be better, to learn from every new experience and share our knowledge. My years at the UW have been full of chances to do new things and find new pieces of myself, and responsibilities to take my education seriously and invest my time in service. I have gained an understanding of failure, a recognition of the courage and perseverance that define success. Now I know myself. I have found my passion, and I am beginning a life I never dreamed I could have. There is nothing particularly remarkable about me. The chances we take and the opportunities we earn define who we become. So please, enter your university career with gusto and courage. Work hard. Discover what makes you tick. Mess up. Then stand up and try again. It will be worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison, for those wonderful remarks. You are indeed a role model for new students, for all students at the University of Washington. The Oxford English Dictionary defines provost as the keeper of the keys. Here at the University of Washington, he is academic officer and chief budget officer. He's also a distinguished bioengineer. Please welcome Provost Lee Huntsman.
Our speaker this afternoon is an accomplished academic. He's a full professor of sociology. He's chairman of that very excellent department. He's a nationally and internationally recognized scholar in his discipline. He's a winner of what is perhaps the most prestigious award you can win at the University of Washington, the university's Distinguished Teaching Award. He is, in short, a star. But he didn't start out a star. In fact, he began with very few advantages in life. And he's had a journey that has entailed a number of critical junctures where he had to make a decision, had to take a risk, had to step out in a confidence that was sometimes lacking. In short, he had to summon the courage to seize the opportunities. He is, in other words, a veteran of a number of freshman-like experiences. And to this journey, he has brought all the intelligence, the energy, the hard work that you would expect. But he's also brought a consistent wisdom, humility, and a really potent and infectious optimism, all of which have made him an inspiration to both his colleagues and his students. He is, in other words, a really cool guy. So, here to talk to us about how to write poetry, how to dance, and how to change the world is Professor Robert Crutchfield.
Provost Huntsman told me beforehand that because I was out of town and he couldn't talk to me about what he would say, that he made up some lies. Much of it was obviously the case. Thank you, Provost Huntsman, members of the Board of Regents, President McCormick, colleagues, parents, members of the 2002 freshman class. It's an honor to be here with you. Actually, before I start my text, I want to make a confession. And the confession is I sat back here thinking, what am I doing here? And in part, that's about the nervousness that comes with the build-up that President McCormick gave me at the brunch, the words of introduction of Provost Huntsman. But it's also sort of a confessional about my time here at the University of Washington. I have to say that I know a lot of people come here and they think they belong here. They think it's an entitlement, that they're supposed to be here. And I never felt that way. I've often found myself wandering this campus thinking, how did I end up here? There is no way that when I sat where the freshmen in this room sat, could I ever imagine that I would be standing in front of a university convocation, supposedly giving wisdom. I regularly walk around this campus being amazed and think, at being here on this faculty, and I regularly think, what am I doing here? But let me begin. Would the parents of the entering freshmen please stand? Please. No, don't, not yet, not yet. They jumped the gun on me. I want the students, for all that your parents have done for you, for all you will ask them for while you are here, believe me, parents, they'll continue to ask, and for what I will ask them to do for you in a few minutes, please give your parents a ringing round of applause. Not yet. Now, parents, I'm going to challenge your children to do something. And to some, it may sound a little scary. It may sound a little flaky. But I implore you to let them try it with your blessing. I'll come back to this shortly, but for now, please be seated. Would all the freshmen please stand? I want you, who will be the 2006, I'm an optimist, graduation class of the University of Washington, to look around at yourselves. Take a good look. You are men and women of many races, varying ages, from Washington and beyond, from the U.S. and beyond. You are tall, short, gay, straight, from urban, suburban, and rural areas. You are from wealthy families and from families that struggle to afford education. You have many things that differentiate you. What unites you is your talent. You would not be here if not for that talent. For that talent you bring with you, for the hard work that you will do, that you did to get here, for the hard work we'll surely ask you to do now that you're here, please give yourselves a hand. Please be seated. The question we have for you, that your parents have for you, that you should have for yourself, is what will you do with your talent? This question brings me to the title of my talk today, Write Poetry, Dance, and Save the World. What does this title mean for you? It's actually the second part of an answer to yet another important question. That question is simply, what are you doing here at the University of Washington? The first part of the answer is easy, and you already know it. You are here to develop yourself so that you can have a better life. For many of you, probably most of you, this means to get an education, the training, and the credentials that will help you to get a better job. But the second part of the answer to the question, why are you here at the University of Washington, is also very important. Why are you here? It's to write poetry, to dance, and to save the world. Before telling you what I mean by this, and why this is important, I must tell you a little bit more about universities and a little bit about this one in particular. Ask yourself why any society would invest in universities, especially public universities. One reason is that universities educate members of the society, particularly the younger members. But that doesn't explain why those without children would elect to expend tax dollars or to make significant donations to support higher education. Societies past and present have supported universities because to do so is good for those societies. The great universities of the world share many traditions, as you've already heard today. One tradition shared by Oxford and Cambridge, the Sorbonne and Harvard, the great African University at Timbuktu, and the University of Washington is that we are here to educate students to make them better for themselves, but also better for the society. We might say to make students not only competitive on the job market, but also, just as importantly, to make them better citizens as well. The reason the communities are willing to support higher education is because colleges and universities produce a public good. The people of the state of Washington invest in your education, not simply to benefit you, but so that we all will benefit. To deliver on the promise, you must think of your role as larger than simply what your education will do for you. You owe it to the tradition of great universities and to the people who support this particular great university to think beyond what you will get, what benefits you will receive here, but to what you will be able to give this state, this nation, this world, while you are here and when you go forward. A moment ago, I invoked the notion of great union. What makes a university great? This question cannot be answered by focusing on how well we achieve the elements of our mission. This university, like others, takes as its mission the dissemination of knowledge, the preservation of knowledge, and the discovery of new knowledge. We measure our greatness in the learning of our students, in the quality of our libraries, and in the scholarly advancement and artistic productions of our students and faculty. At the heart of it all, though, are the people who make up this intellectual community, this university. You've now joined our community. Now it becomes your task to maintain its greatness. I just described what makes universities great. Now let's talk a little bit about this special place, the University of Washington. Let me tell you about the greatness of the University of Washington in two ways. By first telling you about something that happened here, and then second, by suggesting something you can do to explore the university's tradition and greatness on your own. Last spring, I had the opportunity to sit here in this auditorium when, for the first time in many years, the University of Washington awarded an honorary degree. That degree was awarded to Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. That was a very special day for this university and for all of us who had the opportunity to be here. But I don't want to recount to you the wonders of the ceremony or the dignitaries who were present. It is a student that I want you to know about. Anthony Kelly was asked to speak on behalf of UW students that day. You can kind of get to know Anthony if you go to Husky Stadiums on Saturday. He's a linebacker on the football team. That day, I sat right there in the middle with tears welling up in my eyes as Anthony, a student I had in class during his freshman year, as he talked about how the University of Washington education he'd received transformed his life. Anthony came here from a very humble background to play football. That's how he thought of himself initially, as just a football player. But he had an opportunity to go to study in South Africa for a quarter with the University of Washington's Comparative History of Ideas program. Many of you will have similar kind of opportunities. So taken was Anthony by his experience that he sought out and was able to make a second study trip to South Africa. As a result of these trips, Anthony was transformed. He came to see himself in broader terms. He saw his connection to a larger humanity. A concrete expression of that broader vision was his desire and efforts to bring a dance group of young South African children that he and his family had informally adopted to the U.S. He wanted to broaden their horizons as his had been broadened. Many of us were touched that day by the story of Anthony's transformation and his intellectual journey. But the image of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, this diminutive man moving around those assembled on this stage to hug a hulking linebacker at the conclusion of Anthony's talk, will stay with me forever and will forever represent the transformative capabilities of this special place, this university. Anthony, incidentally, was, with the generous help of some members of the University of Washington community, able to bring those children from South Africa to Seattle for a visit this past summer. My second way of helping you to understand the greatness of the University of Washington is not by recounting another story. If you take a class from me, you'll hear lots of my stories, so another time. Instead, I want to ask you to take an abbreviated tour of the campus. This tour will highlight the physical beauty of our school, but most importantly, it will draw you to what really makes this university great. I want to ask you to discover the university's greatness on your own by taking Bob Crutchfield's magical intellectual UW tour. I actually discovered yesterday that you'll have to delay that for a little while because there's a construction fence around the starting point of it, but the spring will be a great time to take the tour, so get to know the place and then go on the tour if you will. Begin at the Sylvan Theater, the little grove just below the fountain to the east of Rainier Vista, where the white columns are. Incidentally, those columns are from the original buildings of the university when it was founded in 1861 in what is now downtown Seattle. Go to the Sylvan Theater, sit for a minute or two, enjoying the quiet beauty of the Sylvan Theater. Then read a bit from your book. Then again, sit quietly and ponder your role as a student. Think about how much of intellectual discovery must come from your own individual hard work and from looking within ourselves. Appreciate what an inspirational place this is for that purpose. Enjoy the beauty of your surroundings, and then after a while, walk up Rainier Vista to Red Square. Go into the just remodeled Suzzallo Library. Go upstairs and enter the graduate reading room. This is by far the most beautiful room on campus. Here again, sit quietly, read your book, and think. This time, think of your place as a student among other students. Notice the others around you in the reading room, studying, talking quietly, yeah, even taking a bit of a siesta from time to time. Recognize here, in this special place, that scholarly pursuits are also collective pursuits. Your intellectual development will be enhanced as a result of the intellectual community personified by the physical and human environment of the graduate reading room. Here, consider the community that you have become a part of. You have joined with past and present University of Washington students who have made a difference in the world. They've changed things. But don't worry, even as they were doing that, they had some fun, so you can do that too. Enjoy this space for a while, as long as you like, but then come out of the library, turn to the right, and go to the final spot on the tour, the Liberal Arts Quad. While you sit there among the cherry trees, repeat the pattern of sitting quietly, talking in the beauty of your surroundings, taking it in, read a few minutes, and think about your place in the great tradition of liberal learning and the connection that this university has to that tradition. By coming to this university, you become a part of the students who came before you, not only literally on this campus, but to all the campuses of the great institutions of learning. The greatest thinkers in the world began their education as you do, with important questions remaining unanswered. What would they do with their talents? What would they contribute? What will you do with your talents? This brings me at last to telling you why you should write poetry, dance, and save the world. I, of course, don't mean that you literally need to dance or write poetry, but doing both is a good thing, and my colleagues in the humanities would very much want me to make sure you know that. The point is that if you are to fully educate yourself while you're here, you must not limit yourself. Take courses that involve yourselves in a variety of things. Take classes and learn in areas that stretch your curiosity, creativity, and intellect. If you major in business or science, do not just take the minimum courses required in other areas. Find your way to the beauty of the humanities, to the explorations of the social sciences. If you become an English, art, or other humanities major, make sure you sample enough math and science to understand their processes of discovery and the elegance of scientific pursuit. If your taste runs to the social sciences, little commercial. If your taste runs to the social sciences, please don't forget to learn something about the arts, music, literature, and science that make us so human. No matter where you're headed professionally, seek an opportunity to study abroad. Nothing can surpass the learning that will come from spending time in another country, in another culture. When I say write poetry and dance, I'm imploring you to be open, creative, and to take intellectual chances. You will grow more than you can imagine as a result. Parents, I said that I would ask you to do something that may be hard. What I ask of you is to have the courage to freely allow your students to take intellectual chances. Chances that at times may seem frivolous, chances where their payoff may not immediately be apparent. This is their opportunity to flourish in a way that will help them to grow as people. Here, and it will enrich their lives when they go forward from here. Students, I have not yet commented on the Save the World portion of my title. This I really do mean literally. When I say save the world, I do not mean that you should approach this task, this responsibility, from any particular point of view. What I want to emphasize is that you have a responsibility to not just become an educated person for your own benefit. With the privilege of education comes the responsibility to use what you will learn for the benefit of others. You can choose to save the world by means that we call liberalism. You can save the world by means that we call conservative. You can make small contributions. Some of you may make large contributions to saving the world. How you choose to satisfy your responsibility that comes with your education is your choice. Universities are here to educate you so that you benefit, but also so that you will be better citizens of our communities, our country, and our world. Save the world however you choose, but remember, you have a responsibility beyond yourself. To conclude, let me point out that my comments have really been about a series of questions. Why are you here? What will you do with your talents? How will you satisfy your responsibility as an educated person? The questions really are the point of what we do here. We ask questions. Having the right answers is great, but having the questions is really what moves us forward. Welcome to the question-asking community. Welcome to our intellectual community. Welcome to the University of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Crutchfield, for those wonderfully inspiring remarks. Thanks to Timothy Salzman and the University Wind Ensemble. Thanks to all of you, freshmen arriving in 2002, and your parents and friends and families. Thank you for being at the 2002 Freshman Convocation of the University of Washington. To close these ceremonies, I want to reintroduce and reinvite to the podium University Marshal Professor Ronald Moore.
The University Alumni Association invites parents, students, and other guests to enjoy complimentary refreshments in the lobbies of Meany and Kane halls. The audience is requested to remain seated until the completion of the recession by the platform party. The 2002 Freshman Convocation of the University of Washington is now closed.